I know what you're thinking, but the kunai is balanced. Why do so many players think the kunai is unbalanced then? I noticed in a lot of my casual matches that many players still believe the kunai is unbalanced or overpowered, and I wanted to explain why that's false. I would also like to point out that this is my humble opinion on the kunai, so take this video with a grain of salt and let's start the discussion. Let me give you a hint as to why a lot of players don't like the kunai. The word starts with a trick and ends with stab. Yeah, you heard me right, Trickstabs. So those of you who are not familiar with Trickstabs, here is the explanation on the competitive TF2 wiki page. Trickstabs are special maneuvers used by spies to backstab enemies that know they are a spy. Now that we understand how spy himself works, let's delve into what makes the kunai special. The kunai stats paint a simple picture. Backstab equals health, which basically allows you to stay alive for easier escape or to continue stabbing your victims. But what is the problem with this? Most players' first encounter with a semi-skillful trickstabbing spy is almost always horrific because they don't know how to counter it. Even a better and more experienced player could still be tricked and outplayed by the spy. But trickstabbing couldn't just be everything, right? Trickstabs do take a lot of skill and some luck to pull off. Wait, what's that yellow watch that the spy is holding in his other hand? Yeah, that one. Oh, that's called the dead ringer. But what does it do? Let's check its stats. You leave a fake corpse whenever you take damage, and you temporarily gain invisibility, speed, and 65% damage resistance that decays over 3 seconds, letting you get out of dodge quickly. Yeah, you heard me right, 65% damage resistance on the click of a button. That's enough to tank a 450 damage bullet to the skull from a fully charged rifle with just your 205 health. That's unbelievably strong. And the dead ringer isn't even the only item that makes a spy more unkillable. The next spy weapon I'm about to show you is hands down the most overpowered bullshit weapon that exists on Team Fortress Earth, the Diamondback. This critting garbage of a weapon. Before I start to discredit this weapon, I should probably tell you the stats. You get 1 guaranteed critical hit for each building destroyed with your sapper attached or a backstab kill. So in a nutshell, you get 3 critical hits for doing what a spy is supposed to do. Thank you for this great invention, Valve. My point here is that if you get just 1 or 2 high health enemies in a row with the kunai, you right click and tank damage out to a safe distance with the dead ringer, pull out your Diamondback and clean up the rest of the enemy team with them having 0 counterplay. Yup, not very fun to play against. This leads to my first argument, that the kunai is not unbalanced. It only becomes insane when you have specific weapons equipped with the kunai, such as the dead ringer and Diamondback. If you take away the dead ringer and use the stock watch or a cloak and dagger, you are very vulnerable to a lot of players. You only have 70 health, which puts you below many thresholds. You can get one shot by a medic firing his crossbow from a medium long range, soldier's rockets, engineer's shotgun, demo's pipes, or a scout's scattergun, all in the blink of an eye. With the dead ringer equipped, you can get out of these situations easily and be able to clean up with a Diamondback. But without it, you're dead 9 times out of 10. Okay, let's say you take away the dead ringer and the Diamondback from the kunai spy player. Why is this knife still the most popular pick out of any of the other knives? Let's look at the other knives then. The big earner gives you speed boost after killing an enemy, your eternal reward, or year for short, instantly disguises as your kill, plus making the kill silent, and the bicycle grants you 100% immunity towards from fire for 1 second, and afterburn immunity for 10 seconds, allowing for easier escape from those hellish demons. What is it about having 205 health that beats all the other knives' abilities? A quick way to answer this would be to say that your survivability is much higher and easier using the kunai. Yeah, simple as that. My countless hours of spy have taught me one thing, and that is the chances of you surviving and getting out alive using the kunai is much higher than if you were to use any of the other knives. Getting that sweet 200 plus bonus health after a successful backstab gives you more than enough time to get out alive. And I know there's going to be some of you in the comments saying, well, speed, fire immunity and a silent kill can also be very handy in some situations. Yes, I agree, but you said it yourself, only in some situations. I think the bicycle, year and big earner are great at taking out targets in specific situations, like big earner for spread out groups or the year for groups that are distracted. But the kunai is simply better at doing all this. This is mainly because of just how easy it is to get away with the kunai. The big earner requires good movement, and the your eternal reward needs acting, but the kunai just needs that first step. Besides all this, I know how frustrating it must be trying to kill an overhealed spy. All the damage you've done to him is ultimately irrelevant if no one on your team has any situational awareness to notice a spy digging into their backs, going from 1 to 200 HP in a couple of clicks. But that's an issue that spy is generally known for. Plus, spy dies just as quickly as a normal one does if anyone in front of him turns around after hearing the screams of the damned behind them. The kunai also limits everyone's favorite subclass, gun spy. Something I've noticed about spy players is that they are far too dependent on their knife. They don't use their revolver nearly as much as they should. The utility of being about to finish off low health target is great and vital for a class built around shooting, but this knife doesn't reward good aim, it punishes it instead. If you now only have 70 health, it wouldn't be a wise move pulling out your revolver when you can get a much higher reward simply backstabbing them instead. This makes the kunai especially bad if you get called out before making a stab, which at that point you can start praying for a quick death. Speaking of earlier, when I mentioned just how simple it is to escape, who else would that most appeal to than new players? Newer spies will look at Spy and think he's a cool character because he is so different from any other first-person shooter game. Trading off 1v1 power for the ability to insta-kill is very different from a lot of other games. But when these newer players hop into a game and try to play him, they get overwhelmed by how hard it is to get a kill, and the even more difficult part of surviving after. Out of all the knife choices, the kunai has the most reliable way to survive without needing much game sense or skill. There is nothing wrong with the kunai itself, but more what the kunai stands for and teaches. It paints an unrealistic picture of how spies are supposed to be played. He is a support class who is supposed to help his team kill important targets like medics and snipers. In Valve's original intention, he is portrayed as the sneaky Frenchman by getting behind enemy lines, using his Inviswatch, outsmarting the enemy team with his disguises, and taking their backs when they least expect it. The kunai destroys this intended playstyle by turning the spy into a heavy damage dealer and tank without much work on the spy's end. The kunai is not unbalanced, but it is definitely far better than any of the other knives in general circumstances. You can't get around that. But I think it is unfair to say that it's truly unbalanced. A lot of really good spy players you see trickstabbing entire lobbies have thousands of hours poured into the class. He is the weakest class in the game, but you still see spy mains dominating servers. The actual issue is just the way the kunai interacts with the Dead Ringer and the Diamondback. Without these two unlocks in their current state, the kunai would be far more manageable and countable than it is currently. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and join my Discord server, where I'll be reading your opinions on the topic. Thanks for watching. I guess I should have mentioned the ambassador, but who uses that anymore?